What is up, guys? My name is Kodak the Bear, and welcome back to the channel. Uh, Kind of a pretty big update going on. This isn't anything for the YouTube channel per se, but something that is pretty good nonetheless. But those of you who haven't been following around over on the Twitch channel, we had just recently hit over 100 followers. Technically 122 right now, but I've kind of put off making the video a little bit. Uh, no reason in particular, really. But yeah, just mainly wanted to say thank you guys for 100 followers on Twitch. As you guys know, if you watched the last update video, I talked about how my goals for this year were to at least reach, I think it was to at least reach like 250 on YouTube, which we are at 272, and 100 over on the Twitch channel. Only 100 because obviously growth on Twitch is a little bit slower. It's a whole different it's a whole different thing that you're going through. So for us to be able to hit 100 with still a month to spare, and we're getting super close to the affiliates too. So it's been a pretty good year for us nonetheless. Wow, I'm looking at myself in the camera and I look really rough. I don't know why. I look good, but I also just look like insanely tired and like I've been doing nothing but hard drugs. But yeah, as per usual with the last big milestone that we made, kind of wanted to take more time to talk about things that have been going on. Talk more about myself, because with every big goal, I eventually want to release more about myself and maybe some experiences, some stories, stuff like that. So the topic that I want to talk about now was, I'm pretty sure last milestone we talked about how I came to be wanting to like do YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that. And I named off some of my like big influences and where I get a lot of my like comedy from and a lot of my ideas from. But this time I wanted to go straight into talking about I guess the video games in general that kind of inspired the channel and a lot of the games that I grew up playing that I absolutely love. So first and foremost, the first game that I ever purchased was Resident Evil 3. I think I was maybe 10 or 9. My dad at the time was working with a friend who owned the furniture store, but it was also kind of like furniture store slash like thrift shop kind of deal. And I remember for my birthday, I had saved up a lot of money because there was this one game in the display case that really piqued my interest, and it was Resident Evil 3. I didn't know anything about Resident Evil besides from movies. Um, I've seen the first Resident Evil movie. I think that movie was out by that point, and Resident Evil 2, which had Nemesis and stuff in it. So I think that's where I recognized the cover from, or at least the creature on the cover. So I bought that for my PS1, and since then I've kind of honestly just fell in love with like the horror genre as a whole. Probably wasn't the best Resident Evil game I could have picked up. Obviously, a lot of people tend to gravitate towards Res 2 as one of the best Resident Evil games, but definitely for a first time, I could have chosen a lot worse of a game. Res 3 was an amazing game. I love the visuals, I love the story. Um, it's also like the jump scares and like the ambiance, the sound of the zombies in the background, like the derelict city, everything about that old game like scared me. And it's like one of the only games that like even today I think just has amazing like ambiance and a lot of like things going on in the background with like I said, with the audio design, the zombies. It's like one of the only games nowadays that still actually scares me, that doesn't overly rely on jump scares. It is not the first game I've ever played, though. I honestly couldn't tell you what the first game I ever played was. If I was a hazard a guess, I imagine probably Super Mario Bros. Or Super Mario 64. Because I didn't really have a lot of consoles growing up, or at least within like the first uh 6 to 7 years of my life. Like we had like consoles and stuff. Like my family had Atari and Nintendo 64 and stuff like that. But it wasn't really until I got older that I was allowed to really play those. My mom didn't want me playing video games very much. I was only allowed like to play video games for like I think 20 minutes to like half an hour a day, and then I had to spend like the rest of the time outdoors. So like my mom definitely didn't want me playing video games or getting me hooked or addicted to them, which honestly had the exact opposite effect because that's all I do now. And so yeah, I played things like Mario 64. I think the N64 was the first console I ever owned. I was also always like 2 generations behind what the current console was. So like when I had an N64, I think the GameCube was already out and about. Um, I eventually had a PS1 and then a PS2. Then the 3 had already been out for I think maybe like a year and a half. So I was like always way behind because my family was kind of poor. We didn't really have a lot of like money to really just like throw out on a lot of random shit. It wasn't until my parents like eventually split up that I started getting a lot more of like the bigger consoles and a lot more of like the fancier accessories and like new games coming out and stuff like that. Once my parents split and they both respectively like found new relationships, so there was a lot more like money coming in on both sides for us kids. So we eventually ended up getting uh almost it was almost like a competition to see who could get us the better gift at that point. As sad as that is, but that's pretty much how it came with like the consoles and stuff like that. And then it wasn't until I was like 16, I was working at Walmart, and that's when I bought my first ever console, which was the PS4 with my own money, instead of just like maybe trading it or something like that. But yeah, the PS4 was the first system I ever bought. Um, and that's kind of like my story with at least consoles. But going back to like games and stuff, um, like I said, there was Resident Evil 3 was pretty big influence in my life. Uh, as a kid, I played Mario 64, which was the first game I've ever fully completed, like 100% completed. Obviously with help from family members and stuff like that. But it was the only game where I've ever like did a full completionist. I collected every single star. I beat like every single stage, every unlockable. I pretty much knew like every Easter egg and every secret. And this was kind of before like the internet was around, but it was kind of before people had like if you wanted a strategy guide or you wanted to find a lot of this stuff, you had to basically look for it in a magazine. Like there just wasn't a lot of like results for this kind of stuff back on the internet and stuff like that back then. But uh eventually Resident Evil 3 I turned into like Res 4, 2, the original. I got into the Silent Hill series shortly after, well, maybe not shortly after that. But I found the Silent Hill series through a friend of mine, Silent Hill 3. So that kind of like piqued my interest with that series. And then since there, like, I've kind of just been branching out into different like horror games and different genres. Obviously as a teenager, I played my fair share of shooters too. So like I used to be really into like Call of Duty and stuff like that. Obviously I've kind of grown out of that kind of phase now. Those games I'm not really too big of a fan of anymore. Uh, but yeah, that's kind of like it's not a very interesting history, but that's kind of where a lot of it comes from. And I guess for horror games in particular, the reason that I'm so interested in them is because my family was always playing like horror movies and stuff on our TV. Like that was just kind of the movies that my mom liked and that my dad and them had always just had running on the TV was just horror movies. So I've kind of been exposed to a lot of like violence and a lot of like uh horrific and like scary movies at a very young and early age. So now I'm kind of just like jaded to a lot of it. I think the last time a game actually gave me a good scare that wasn't just like a jump scare or like something jumping out at me, because those are cheap scares. That's just that stuff like that's just stupid. But I think the last game to actually give me like a legitimate scare would be Outlast 2. when I was playing the demo for that game. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. Wanted to keep this short and simple and just talk a little bit more about myself. So if you guys like, please feel free to leave a like and comment down below. As always, I hope you guys go check out the Twitch channel as well. I just recently got my name back, kind of. If you guys have been over on the Twitch channel, the channel was called Father Joseph TV for a little bit. I wanted to basically change my name, or at least test it out, since I've been using Kodak the Bear for like, going on at least I think like almost 12 years now. So I wanted to like change it up a little bit, but I wasn't really too big on the new name, so I went back to the original. But my original name for some reason was taken within like the hour span of like gap in time that I had to retype in my username. Because if you don't know how it works, when you change your name on Twitch, you have to wait 2 months to change it again. And I don't really know what happened. So either someone took my username or Twitch was just like, you know what, F you, we're not going to give you your username back. So over on Twitch, it's still Kodak the Bear, but replace the E and the A in Bear with a 3 and a 4. I will also link it down below so it's way easier for you guys to find it too. But I would appreciate seeing you guys over on the Twitch channel as well. And yep, that's going to be it for this video. Catch you guys later.